Okay, welcome to Quimby CLE. My name is Jillian and I'm a program attorney here at Quimby. Today I'm joined by Brian Chase, who's here to talk to us about how to find and use location information in litigation. Welcome, Brian.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Brian, why don't we start off? Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the company you work for, Archer Hall?
Sure. I'm a recovering lawyer. I was practiced for about 10 years doing plaintiff personal injury and criminal defense. Made the switch to doing digital forensics work, and I've been doing digital forensics for about 8 years. I also teach at the University of Arizona. I teach a trial skills course there. I joined Archer Hall, who I'm with now, in 2019 as the managing director of digital forensics and e-discovery. Archer Hall is a digital forensics and e-discovery company. So we do work all over the country, collecting digital evidence, collecting data from cell phones and computers and location data, like we're going to talk about today. So we offer those kind of services where we collect that data, analyze it, testify about it at trial. We also offer those e-discovery services where we take that data, put it into a hosted review platform. Platforms like Relativity being the biggest name out there, so that groups of attorneys can review that data, tag it, export it, produce it in litigation. And that's kind of the basics of our work. I'm based here in Tucson, Arizona, but like I said, we do work all over the country.
Great. So let's jump in and talk a little bit about location data. So, what are the kinds of cases that you see where location data is really used?
It's all over the place. People tend to think of criminal law when they're thinking of location data. Is there data that puts the suspect at the scene of the crime? And that's certainly a very common place that we see location data. But we see it all over. We see it in personal injury cases. In a hit and run case, trying to put the driver at the scene of a crash, trying to see how long a trucker might have been on the road based on their location data, trying to see where somebody was walking to or from. We've had it even come up in medical malpractice cases, trying to determine whether a physician was at the hospital at the time entries were being made in the patient's chart. Comes up in family law cases. Was a parent with the children when they were supposed to be? It comes up in workers' comp. Where was the worker actually at the job site when they were injured? We've seen it in wage cases where employees saying, "Hey, I wasn't being paid for the work that I did," and the employer saying, "You weren't there. You weren't at the job site." So there's all different uses of location data. It's really not just limited to criminal cases. We see it in pretty much every type of case out there.
Okay, and so for these cases, where do you get the location data from?
There are all sorts of sources of location data. There's everything from pictures to GPS data, data that you might be getting based on the GPS from your cell phone or from a navigation GPS, like a TomTom or a Garmin or something like that. We get it in cell site data, which is the cell towers that your phone connects to for phone calls and text messages. We see it in applications that you're using. If you're using an exercise app, that's tracking your location. If you have an Android phone, Google is tracking your location. We see devices that get plugged into people's cars to track mileage. There can be smart devices in people's homes or offices that can provide location data. So really, there's a lot of sources out there. Attorneys tend to think just of the cell phone, and the cell phone is a source, but it's not always the best source. There's lots of sources of location data out there. Oh,
Sorry, I was muted. Yep. Okay. So you mentioned photographs and pictures as one of the sources of location data. So how does a picture have location data?
Yeah, so pictures have a type of metadata called EXIF data. It's EXIF. It's just a special name for picture metadata. And the way it works is when you take a picture with your cell phone, your phone fills out kind of all of these EXIF metadata fields. And one of those is GPS information. Your phone will use the GPS and it will embed in that EXIF data your location when you take the picture. There's all sorts of other information embedded in there too, like the date and time that you captured the picture, the make and model of the phone. But if we have a picture from a cell phone, we can look at that EXIF data to see where that picture was taken, and presumably that location will match up with what you're actually seeing in the picture.